started today with the events. I just want to say that this is in the middle of a long day of great events honoring Thaddeus Stevens, and this is the 220th birthday commemoration, and we are honored to have that take place in good weather for the first time in years. For those of us that have been here a number of times, we're used to being soaked and or frozen. Obviously, we're here to honor a man that changed lives, whether he was fighting to end slavery or provide free education for people. You know, it's interesting. He insisted that everyone be treated equally, and here we are remembered with a permanent reminder of his principles of equality. And the neat thing is that though he passed away some time ago, was born 220 years ago, today we still have the effects of what he was all about. Through Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology, we are changing lives every day, and we break the cycle of poverty, we provide people opportunities, and we treat everyone equally and fairly. And the state of Pennsylvania has an opportunity to really change their lives, change their families' lives. So it's something that's very unique that we have still going on today. So one of the things that I will try to do is keep the things going along pretty smoothly and shortly, because we have a number of speakers, and you know, the experts of Stevens are all here today, so I really can't talk too much about them because I've got a ton of people that probably could correct anything that I would say. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Alex Monroe, the Executive Director of the Alumni Foundation at Thaddeus Stevens.
You caught those words, keep it moving right along. That means, Alex, you know, make it quick. You may have seen this just a few minutes before you came. There was a class over here outside. The kids were playing. There was Afro-American kids, Caucasian, Oriental, Hispanics. I saw them all playing. Back in Thaddeus Stevens' time, in his early years, you would not have seen that. But you can contribute to the things that he championed as a person. His compassion for his fellow man is something really, really unique. Now, we use words that Thaddeus Stevens is a man before his time, and he absolutely was. And there's other people in history who are really people before their time. And I always like to point out that the major issues in those days are the pressing issues of America today that we are still working with. But he opened the door. He set the pathway so those little kids can play together. And each one of us standing here are the beneficiaries of what Thaddeus Stevens did. And free public education for all. Okay? And there's millions upon millions upon millions of young people that were the beneficiaries of that law to change that. And Thaddeus Stevens gave of himself to make that happen. When I say gave of himself, there was a loss of friends, a loss of support, a loss of this, a loss of that, threats on life. But he was persistent, and when you have something that you believe in, I always felt that Thaddeus Stevens, I mean, he had compassion for his fellow man, and at the same time, he was willing to pay the price. He was persistent. He was persistent, and he just kept at it, kept at it, kept at it. And so today, all these people have been, you know, subject to receiving public education, and to see the growth of opportunity and the things that he was perpetuated by his accomplishments back then. We have some great historians here that will tell you the in-depth things of Thaddeus Stevens, but I just want to say something about our college, Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. We were the recipients of a bequest by from Thaddeus Stevens, who was dictated in his will that a school will be established, and that there will be taught the trades of the industrial trades of the industry. And the doors, as I often say, it didn't take an act of Congress or a court order to be a non-discriminating institution. Our doors were open to everyone, and I love it. As just so many people, sometimes we write things, we take pages and pages to come up to explain one thing. Thaddeus Stevens accomplished just so much with one sentence, and he said, they shall all be fed at the same table. So black and white, Baptist and Islamic, everybody was fed at the same table. What an achievement. What an achievement in a world that was totally in opposition to those things. And Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology is now 107 years old, and we're now a fully accredited 2-year college, teaching many trades and technical fields. And we're still, as was mentioned, we're still changing lives of young people. We're giving young people a chance, the opportunity, the wherewithal to go to school, get a formal education, get a college degree, and go out with the technical expertise that they have been trained for in 2 years to go out and be gainfully employed. It's a wonderful thing. I see them every day. Young people come back and they graduate, they get their jobs in their majors. We don't have kids walking around with a degree and no place to go. We have the highest job placement rate, percentage-wise, of any college in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That's quite an accolade, quite an achievement. Our students go to work in their major. They get married, they build houses, they buy homes, and they go through all that, and they become responsible tax-paying citizens. I know, because I was one of those students at one time in my life. I know that I was given opportunity that I could not, I didn't have the resources or the means to substantiate anything else in my life because I was in poverty as a kid. I was born into it. So when you drive out East King Street here in Lancaster, you go out to the 700 block and you look to your right and you see a beautiful school. And that's Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology, a wonderful campus with many, many older buildings and some new ones, and we're growing. We're growing. We run close to 1,000 students in enrollment, and this past year, I believe, our President Dr. Griscom and I checked with him, and we had about 2,850 young people that tested to come to Stevens that had a desire to attend there. We can only take in approximately 500, and that's pretty sad when you got to turn away, 2,300 young men and women. It's sad because we have the state, local, we have a tendency to invest in other things, and our greatest resource that we have in America is our children, our young people, and that's what we have to do. I mean, I'm not here to cry with a louder voice on behalf of the college, but we have all the components for growth, but we need funding, we need buildings. You don't turn people away. We have, our people make a difference. They go out, and as I said, they're employed, but we teach the things, the bread and butter things that churn the economy, that makes this whole world go. So many, many times, in my own way, I look out across the campus and I say, thank you, Thaddeus Stevens. Thank you for what you've done, that you had the compassion to get an institution like this started. And I see all the young people that have changed lives, or changing lives. When you look at a young person, one thing for sure, they haven't any idea of their own potentiality. And it's amazing. Every mind is amazing. And these young people, they get a hold of something, and a few years later, you're enjoying the success stories that they have encountered. So I want to thank you for that. So many people are here today just to pay tribute to somebody that was special in life. I think you would all agree, we pay tribute to just about anything and everything in America. The athletes and movie stars, isn't that, whether you contribute or not, they're in the paper and they're getting recognition. Here's somebody that did something meaningful and changed the course of America and how we think and what we do. So thank you, and I'm glad you came out enjoying the warm summer day, and we'll get to hear from the real experts that can tell you a little bit about the history. And I want to thank Dr. Griscom, our president, right behind you there. Dr. Griscom has led the presidency at Stevens for 15 years and has taken it, raised the benchmark, and we're bigger and better than we ever were before, and still growing. So thank you, and if you have the time, come out and visit us on a nice day. We'd be glad to show you around, both to the students and around the campus, to everything that we hold. All right? Have a good day now.
Thank you very much, Alex. Truly a place that we're quite proud of, Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. And when you came to the cemetery, I hope you didn't have to trip over this mulch pile, but I came to the cemetery this morning to check things out, and I saw that my heart stopped all of a sudden. I don't know what's going to happen here. And I got an email from one of the board members, and they apologized. They didn't realize that they messed up and this happened today and so forth. But actually it's a good sign, or a good thing, that this happened, because it reminds us that this space requires work, and this space, to maintain it, requires effort. And the neighborhood has responded to the cemetery and has taken it in as a project and a passion. And they have done a wonderful job spending thousands of dollars to renovate the tombstones and markers, to identify where people are buried and clean it up. And now this is a place where people come and walk through and get a sense of what's going on here, and they capture that history that's here, and they start to understand some of the things about Stevens and the other people that are buried here, and what the history is here. So at this time, I'd like to have a member of the board come and speak to us, Mr. Randy Harris.
Hi everybody, thanks for coming. It's great to be here with you, to have this chance to share just a little bit about what we're doing here at the cemetery. And Chris basically said everything I wanted to say. We have the mulch here. We have a great partnership, by the way, with Thaddeus Stevens College. We are all board members who are neighbors here in the community. Mayor Gray is here, and the City Public Works provides us with mulch and helps us cut the grass here, and neighbors work really well together. And we got to look into our completion of our first phase of improvements, the sidewalks around the outside. Most of the tombstones are now set up right, and we're still working on that. As Chris said, we're looking toward doing more research and doing more community events here like this and many others. So just want to say, this is Connie Coleman. She's on our board, and her husband Bud is an honorary board member right there. And Michael Lafferty's over here. He's on our board. And many other people in the community really do step up and get together with schools and community groups to help keep up this every week work that we do here, just about all through the summer, the spring season. We have a great relationship, if you don't know this, with the Occupational Development Center of Lancaster. These people are developmentally and physically handicapped people, and they come regularly to help us do the work here. And it's a really wonderful connection to where Stevens came from as a person who had his own challenges in his life and was able to overcome them. And it's a good outing for the folks who come here. And like I said, it's another part of a partnership activity that we're proud of being a part of. Thank you very much. And come by and volunteer if you see anybody out here working anytime. We'll be glad to have you.
We recently hired a coordinator of the Women's Center, and just the other day she came running upstairs to my office and she said, "Chris, you've got to turn on and listen to this guy talking. He's talking about Stevens and he's doing a great job. It's phenomenal. I can't believe someone knows this much about Stevens and he has a passion." And I said, by chance, is it Ross? "Well, how'd you know that?" And I said, "Well, when you talk about Stevens and the passion and the interest of Stevens, his name is usually the first one that comes to mind." So at this time, we'll have Mr. Ross Hendricks.
Yeah, you never know when I'm going to pop up. You know, it's interesting, at the beginning of the ceremony today, you talked about how it's such great weather. Because, you know, like I've been soaked many times, and either it's cold, and so I guess it's kind of nice to have a big pile of mulch just to sort of bring a little adversity to the proceedings, you know, just so you know, a little bit more, which actually kind of reminds me of a joke about Thaddeus Stevens, which before the Civil War started, a lot of Southern congressmen were challenging Northern congressmen to duels, and you know they would like choose the weapons of dueling pistols or Bowie knives. And Thaddeus Stevens, you know, who was very hated by the Southerners, said, "Well, if anybody challenges me to a duel, my choice of weapons is dung forks." So I thought, you know, that'd be appropriate with the mulch over there. But I'm going to have very short today. I'm just going to talk about the importance, the sanctity of this cemetery. This cemetery really was a shrine before Thaddeus Stevens came here. That was created by the Shreiner, excuse me, to accept anybody, any color, any religion. It was a testament to equality. And Thaddeus Stevens basically sanctified it even further by actually alluding to the fact that this cemetery accepts all people. So instead of thinking of this as the burial place of Thaddeus Stevens, which it is, and very important, this is a shrine to equality as a whole. And as such, we need to protect it, we need to cherish it, and the Thaddeus Stevens Society is going to do that, and we're going to do whatever we can to maintain that solemnity of the cemetery. That's all I have to say about the cemetery. Now, I'm also kind of the custodian of Thaddeus Stevens jokes. So I've come across another one. Sometimes they actually fall completely short, and we'll see how this one does. During the Civil War, they started talking about abolition, of course. And some of the congressmen, believe it or not, said, "Oh, we don't want to abolish slavery. That will upset the South." Okay? Well, you know, they were like invading the South at this time, and you know, like at war with the South. So Thaddeus Stevens thought that was pretty peculiar that they would worry about upsetting the South over abolishing slavery. And he said it reminded him of a revolutionary captain who raised a company and drilled them, and they marched into battle and to meet the British, and right before they started firing each other, the captain sort of revealed his true colors by yelling, "Don't shoot! That might upset them further!" So, that's a Thaddeus Stevens joke. So that's all I have to say today, and I'll turn it back over to Chris.
Thank you very much. This day is made special by all the people that come and recognize Stevens, and we have a lot of distinguished guests, some of which have already been alluded to and mentioned. We have members of the political arena. Mayor Gray is here, and he's been a big supporter both of the college as well as the cemetery. We have members of the board for the cemetery. We have members of the board of Thaddeus Stevens, dignitaries from the college. Too many to mention. But I just wanted to thank all of you for coming out. I appreciate your support. At this time, what I'd like to do is introduce Mr. Paul Culbreth. One of the reasons we're here is for an essay contest. Paul Culbreth is the Director of Multicultural Affairs and Mentoring and Student Engagement at the college.
Thank you, Chris. Now, I guess everybody had a joke about the mulch pile. Well, I don't have a joke, but when we were coming down that lane, Valdezia stopped because she thought that they were getting ready to bury somebody. But like many, I'm deeply honored to participate in today's commemoration of such an exceptional person. This 19th century man or individuals, this civil rights leader's courage has withstood the test of time. His vision of a one America went beyond the color of one's skin, and it focused on the content of one's character. Knowing the path and walking the path are two distinctly different things. Many know the path, but few will have the courage to ever walk that path. Stevens did it all of his life. And now we see a lot of things that are happening, and this is just a tip of the iceberg of the tributes that should be shown to this individual. However, today I'm not here to speak too much on Thaddeus Stevens. I'm here to introduce this year's winner of the Thaddeus Stevens Essay Contest. And the contest, it was very simple. It was to demonstrate an understanding of Thaddeus Stevens' philosophy and its implications for the modern times. It should also speak to the need, character, leadership, and leadership qualities of Stevens, and that it is open to all second-year students nearing graduation. And lastly, they are to demonstrate Stevens' impact on them personally and society as a whole, while showing a firm understanding of his historical legacy. And this award is sponsored by Mr. and Mr. Gorelick. I think we have one of the family members here today. If they would come up to the podium. Mr. Jim Wolf. And one thing that we haven't done in the past three or 4 years, is we haven't had the winner read their essay. But this year, we were asked to let the winner read his essay. So at this time, I'd like to introduce this year's winner of the Thaddeus Stevens Essay Contest, Mr. Maurice Williams.
I had public speaking last semester, so you guys are going to have to bear with me. Might be a request. My essay was called "I Was Fed at the Table," in reference to the quote that was established earlier. Have you ever seen the Everest commercial where they describe a vicious life circle? I didn't go to school because I don't have any money. I don't have any money because I don't have a good job. I don't have a good job because I didn't go to school. Well, I was caught in that whirlwind 2 years ago, and without Thaddeus Stevens, I still might be. I was able to qualify for the Stevens Grant to attend Thaddeus Stevens of Technology, and that decision changed my life. Prior to college, I worked at a well-known cell phone carrier in sales. I love my job, I love the commission checks. I seriously thought I was going to be in sales for the rest of my life, until one awful day when my manager told me that we were going out of business. The best job I had ever had, I thought, was thrown out the window. To make things worse, I was still living at home with my grandparents and was about to be unemployed with a 2-year-old son. I could not keep jumping from job to job, so I decided to attend college, but which college was best suited for my needs. Through research, I found that Thaddeus Stevens and I have a lot of the same characteristics and overcame many of the same obstacles. For example, my father also left me with my mother when I was a young age. I'm sure my childhood was a little bit easier considering people didn't make fun of my club foot, but nevertheless, we both grew up poor. Mr. Stevens and I both excelled in school and never shied away from a good debate. I'd like to think I'm just as flamboyant as Mr. Thaddeus Stevens was, and I too have been called sarcastically witty a time or two in my life. I believe that no one should be excluded or judged from society regardless of race, religion, sex, or sexual orientation. I may not be the extreme radical that he was, but I will stand up for anything I believe in, and I won't stop until things are changed. However, our biggest common belief is that education is the success to the future. Thaddeus Stevens is known as one of the most powerful men to have ever served in the United States House of Representatives. His political agenda was devoted mostly to dismantling slavery and funding for public schools. He even prepared the argument for Thurgood Marshall in the Supreme Court case, Brown versus the Board of Education. Although most people think of Abraham Lincoln as freeing the slaves when he signed the Emancipation Proclamation, really it was Stevens who freed the slaves in all states, not just the southern states, when he drafted his version of the 13th Amendment. Stevens secured the passage of the 14th Amendment and had close ties to the 15th Amendment as well. Unfortunately, Stevens passed away before the 15th Amendment addressing African Americans' right to vote was implemented. He did great things in politics, but I believe the work he did outside of Congress is more important than what he did inside. What amazes me most is the visions that Thaddeus Stevens had and the effect that they have on my life. Without them, African Americans would be nothing more than an asset to their owners. Without his vision, education would be for wealthy, white, privileged children only. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have the chance to succeed in life that I have today. Stevens had the vision that one day everybody would be looked upon equally, treated equally, and thrive despite their differences. Some 200 years later, he was absolutely right. I live what he envisioned in the 1830s. I go to school with a wide variety of people from a wider variety of places. We all go to school to learn, but in the process, we learn from each other as well. We learn that everyone doesn't grow up like we did, and not everyone thinks the same way that we think. Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology provides the ideal setting for individuals to express their differences to each other in a productive way. So at the end of the day, those two individuals may not still agree on the issue that's at hand, but at least they know where the other one's coming from and know why they feel that way. Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology matched Stevens' vision of a socially just world where unearned privilege didn't exist. We all eat at the same table. When Stevens passed in 1868, he had over $100,000 in IOUs from people whom he lent money. On top of that, he left $50,000, which would be the eventual establishment of Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. That's $150,000, and in today's world, that could go far. But after doing a little research, I found that $1 in 1868 equals 16 of today's dollars. Essentially, he gave an astounding $2.4 million away. He was quoted as saying he could not bear to see suffering if his money could help others in distress. After studying in business administration program, I know why the corporate world works how it does and how often U.S. jobs are sent overseas. This is why I want to do my part by owning my own business to produce jobs for my fellow Americans like Stevens did. If he could give that much, I think everybody should be able to do a little bit to make sure his legacy goes on. Even from the grave, Stevens sent a message to the world. He chose to be buried here at Shreiner-Concord Cemetery, the only cemetery that buried all races together. He is such an important figure in Pennsylvania and United States history that his legacy will never die. For certain, not while I'm alive. I just want to leave you with a quote that he said, and he said, "If you make education inexpensive and honorable, a person with intelligence, no matter how poor, will utilize it to improve themselves." And if that's not me, then I don't know what is. Thank you very much.
Maurice, I'm going to present this award to you, and I want you to know that my parents, Dr. Jack and Mrs. Helen Grelick, believe wholeheartedly in what is said in the essay you just read. I'm proud to present this to you. Thank you.
I'd like his mother to come up and have a picture. Take it.
Before we go any further, we have a special announcement for those that are going to the banquet tonight.
Yeah, I was supposed to say this earlier, but I got so involved with the jokes. We're having a banquet at the convention center after this, and we have a little competition. It seems Glenn Beck, of all people, is at the convention center. So there might be a lot of people using the Duke Street garage. So you might want to use the King Street garage if you're going over there. Or maybe on-street parking. I'm not sure.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to say that talking to Dr. Jack and Helen over the years, they do have a passion for what the college does today, and I think that was beautifully displayed in your essay, and that's what we're all about, and thank you for that. And like we said, they would have definitely appreciate that. There are people that love what Stevens is all about and what we do at the college, and you captured it, so thank you for that. At this time, I'd like to ask Dr. Robert Cooper, Director of Residential Life, to say our closing prayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Horace Mann, considered to be one of the fathers of American education, he made this statement. He said, "Be ashamed to die until you've won some victory for humanity." Let's pray. Father, as I read that quote by Horace Mann, I thought about Thaddeus Stevens and the donation that he made to benefit all those who would come after him. He was certainly a champion for the equality of man, and he took a stand for what he knew to be just and right. Here and now, it is my prayer that each one of us be willing to value and treasure the diversity in our lives, and that we too would choose to make a positive difference on our generation and on the generations to come. May people one day stand at our grave sites and say, this man or this woman chose to make a difference for the good of mankind. In your name, amen.
For those of you, we will see you later tonight. For those that are joining us tonight, thank you very much for coming out. We appreciate it. May your travels be safe.